G'day listeners, welcome to Vakaros, the Sailing Podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer and it's that time of the week where we get to hang out with some really cool sailors, but of course I have to share the mic with my two idiot mates. Now, first off, let's welcome Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
BP.
It's that time of year again, gents. The cows are pissed off here in New South Wales.
Oh, daylight savings. Daylight
Wow.
savings. What are you guys with that archaic principle? What are you doing?
Well, it's just that they've had to get up early, and not only that, it's raining here, so they're standing out there an hour earlier than they should be, and they've got the look of just humph on their face as water's dripping down there. Oh, it's a very sad sight. Sad day for the cows.
You'd close your curtains, but you can't find them. They've all faded.
Well, good on you. Righto.
Let's bring in the other bloke,
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bice.
You blokes are all topsy-turvy. It's the other way around. The
Oh, is it?
cows love this time of year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
do
they've
they?
gained a bit more time,
Bit more
have a
time
little, they can have a sleep in today.
A bit more time to do nothing.
Well, I got the sleep in, I tell you, because we planned this hook up at 6 a.m. for me, and then, 7 a.m. for BP, and then daylight savings finishes, so I get an extra hour's sleep in, 7 a.m. for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's always made so much sense being further east than us and behind in time.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, no, so it's good.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done, Australia.
Bryce and I have just decided to hop on the time traveller and come back towards you a bit.
Yeah, that's it.
'Cause
Cool.
This doesn't happen for another hour.
Well, but for all the rest of Australia, it means that winter's coming. That's like a winter's coming, isn't that a line from some TV show?
The Game of Thrones.
I don't have time
Yeah.
for that. Never seen it. Too much sailing.
I think it's on maths, actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's on maths. Yeah, definitely on maths.
Actually,
Got time.
solid episode tonight coming up, by the way.
Oh, good one.
Oh, I worry for you blokes, I tell you.
No, I don't need to worry about me. I don't watch it. Would never watch one.
Well, I am worried about you, BP, because as the viewers, because we've started to try and go a little bit more professional, but not too much, and we're starting to publish this stuff on YouTube now, just in case our punters, our friends out there want to catch on. And we, of course, have a whole bunch of continuity issues because sometimes we don't record the whole episode at once, Much as we say we don't edit, occasionally we have to put things together. And today's a classic example. We had to do the interview a few days ago. And BP...
Oh, I thought you just whipped me out for a quick shave in between intro and interview.
Well, good.
Stop that, because
Tick.
people can't see what you're doing. Right. So anyway,
I thought you said we're doing a video.
For those that majority of our listeners, anyway,
Yes.
you didn't make the interview, BP.
No, and I am very disappointed. I did a bunch of research. I had a bunch of questions sorted out, and no.
Yeah, that was your downfall there, mate.
You got some good. I did some
First
planning.
time you do a bit of planning, but in 206 episodes, and then boom.
Yeah, no, I got some.
No, had a little medical sitchy. Had to go get the elbow looked at. You're
Yeah,
all good.
All good.
Arm still works.
All cleared. Yeah, no. it's,
Enchiladas has cleared up.
yeah, it's gone. So yeah, no, we're all good.
Yeah, cool.
Cool.
Good.
Oh, well, good to hear.
I'll see you at the end.
Okay, well, I got you some bad news, my friend.
What's that?
She was a rip snorter episode. We had an absolute ball. Absolute ball.
I know you did. I know you would have.
It was hilarious. A lot of fun, this interview. It sort of came about, I guess, by accident in a way. The motivation for this one's about pathways. The pathways into our sport for the listeners. There's a lot of different ways to get into the sport. Some want to be pro sailors, but there's other things that you can do in our sport. And in this instance, we're talking, a company that's formed and makes a fabulous product that everyone uses. And the way it came about was that, as you guys know, I spent probably the last 10 years or 11 years talking about sailing and not doing any sailing, doing a lot of coaching, doing a lot of talking. And I thought, I need to go for a sail. So I bought this boat. And there's bugger all around. I'm too big for it. I'll never race it seriously because
This is the impulse, right?
yeah, I'm way too big for it. I'll be back of the fleet no matter what I try. But I thought, well, if I'm not going to waste my time driving miles to get into a race, I need some sort of device to keep me focused. And I remember our little chat, I think episodes 92 from memory, with Carle Costa. He had the product Salmon. Remember the Salmon discussion, which was great because we're mates with Carly, and big fans of the guy and their product. And then we sort of, as part of our ethos, we try and be equal to everyone because we're not taking money off anyone. And I thought, I was looking at stuff online. I used the Google on the intraweb.
The Google. What's the Google?
Oh, it's the Schmidt family personal search engine. Anyway, I used it. I used the Google, and there was another product in the same market called Vakaros, and I was just looking at the two, and it suddenly occurred to me that we hadn't given them time on the show, and I thought, we probably should do that from our ethics sort of perspective. And then so I sort of reached out to them and said, look, we're happy to have a bit of a chat if you want, and they could talk about. We wanted to talk about it from their sailing because they're committed sailors, and talk about the process. So I said, we're not going to do it's not going to be an ad for your product. We're not going to do, you're not getting a free publicity shot. We're just going to talk about that. We want to talk about you, how you got there, and we'll talk about your product a little bit, but it's about the listener. It's not about giving you guys a sort of full free shot at advertising. So I was done with that. The good thing though was the founders who came on are both massive fans of the show. So we end up having an absolute ball. And
good banter.
Good banter.
Oh, nice.
So for the listener, sit back, enjoy it. And if you are an avid listener, you will know that the call it the southern northern Australians, so the people that live below Canada, they go good on the show. They love a bit of a chat. And they went very well. So
just ask them.
It's
Southern Northern Australians.
Southern Northern Australians.
We're going to go to Brazil with the ocean race later. You wait till I get there.
Yeah.
That's the western, southern, southwestern.
Oh dear. Anyway. So this episode we're chatting to Jake Keilman and Todd Wilson, founders of Vakaros, which is a fantastic electronic instrument, as you'll find out. Boys, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having us. Yeah, super excited to be here.
It's cool. I think you guys...
another cracker for us, Jordan.
Yeah.
Early AM for us. Well, you don't drink coffee, but I'm drinking a coffee, and our guests are. It's cocktail hour.
Yeah.
So
Cheers,
perfect.
Cheers.
So it's not cocktail here, Bossy?
Oh, it is a Wednesday morning, so yeah, why not?
Espresso martini, maybe.
Hump day.
Hump day. Lads, obviously you guys are passionate sailors, which is the one thing we loved. So I've been looking through your results, trying to find a few results, and from what I can work out, you guys came together on an F18. Is that where you met?
That's right.
That's right.
But aren't you separated on different coasts or something?
So at the time, we were both in Atlanta, which is, I was telling Nick earlier, it's the sailing capital of the U.S. For anyone who hasn't visited. The surprising amount of sailing going on in this little lake on an inland city. And I had just gotten a Hobie Tiger, which is at the time an out-of-date F-18 design. Great boat, love it, but it was no longer competitive. And we were trying to come up to speed, and a mutual friend introduced us and said, hey, you guys should sail together. Neither of you has sailed cats before, so why not, team up and sail it together? That's
what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? And so obviously you guys, you went on and won 15 world champs together. Is that correct? Is that how it went?
Yeah.
That's about right. Yeah. One or two. So,
but at the time of recording, you live in separate parts of the US. What was
Correct.
the go then? Were you both living in Atlanta? Like, was it mid-study or just how'd that?
Yeah, we started the
all come
company, and then I kicked him out. Told him to get away. No, I'm just kidding. No, he's Jake is from back home for him is Seattle, and so he had finished up his studies, and so he wanted to get back home. And one of the advantages of what we're doing is we can be a remote company, and so it really works out.
Okay, so Jake, here we go, mate. The 2006 Seattle Yacht Club Junior Olympics in the laser.
Yeah, probably didn't do super hot. That's been a while.
I think you got 7th, mate. Just looking back through the
Okay.
Through the
All right.
notes.
From memory, Jordan?
From memory.
I'll take your word for it.
420s with your sister, I think, in 2003.
Yeah. My sister and I used to sail 420s.
Wow.
I'll say sailing with a sibling, if you have any sibling rivalries, they really come out on the water. we actually did. We were pretty good. We were pretty good together for the most part. So,
And
that was
I
fun.
noticed you're at the Aero Worlds on the Gorge.
Yeah, that was actually my first time ever sailing an Aero. Not the ideal program to roll into
No.
the worlds.
What,
Sailed the
in-
boat before.
And
Did
in the
you-
gorge as well.
Yeah, it was pretty breeze on the whole time, as it is at the gorge.
Let me guess, your first bear away on the Aero in breeze, nose down, rudder out of the water, and straight in. Is that right?
That's pretty much about right. I'll say that the F-18 experience that Todd and I had together, we did a lot of pitch pulling and capsizing, so that really came in handy in the Aero. So
Okay.
able to kind of use some of my cat skills on the dinghy side.
Okay, all right. So, Todd, you're not escaping. So, Jaws sailing team, mate.
Oh. Yeah. That's the main one. So those are all my good close friends on the 24.
Yeah. So, you got the Melgers.
We've been sailing together for a little while.
Yeah, cool. And are you doing J's as well? Is that where you're at the moment as well?
No. So the Justin Bogus 24, and then I've been doing a little VX1 sailing, which I've really been enjoying.
Yeah, cool. So this is, I guess we're sort of building up, you guys are passionate sailors, sort of, you're like the majority of our listeners. You guys just enjoy going sailing. That's the gist of it.
Yeah.
And, same as us, we love our sport. We want to get going. But the difference between you two to, say, me is that you're smart and you worked out how to make a toy that we all going, Jesus, what's this thing?
Well, I was actually thinking about this the other day. So when we got started, we were sailing the F-18 together, and this really grew out of our own desire to just get better as sailors. And if we'd been really smart, what we would have done was gone and found a training partner. That would have been the smart thing to do.
We weren't that smart.
Put two engineers on a boat, and we start thinking, how hard could this be? We can build some instruments. We can measure what's going on out here, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's really where it started. Was knowing, or at least believing in our own sailing, that if we had the ability to put some data to what we were doing, we could actually see, okay, this is working, this isn't working, mostly this is not working, and learn and improve that way. Because the problem, and I think this is true on any boat, but I think it's especially true on a high performance boat, the moding, the grooves, the way that you handle the boat in the water, there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of options, and things that work in some conditions and don't work in other conditions. And the difference between going fast and slow can be really substantial. And so when you're out just sailing with no reference point, no training partner, and no data, you can be out there thinking, oh man, we're going great, we're ripping along. And then you show up at an event and you get a reality check and you realize, okay, actually all that practicing we did, we didn't really learn anything. And that was kind of our experience and really what set us off on this path. But in hindsight, I think we could have been a little smarter about it.
So two questions. When was this? Like how long ago? And did you have an existing tool that you used for that data collection, or you basically had to come up with the idea, the concept? Because obviously that idea and concept's been around for a long time, but not at this small boat level.
Yeah, so this would have been 2014, 2015, 2016, where we kind of started sailing together. And the company didn't really get moving, full steam until a couple of years later, but the idea sort of emerged around that time. And, at that time, I was recording stuff on my phone, doing some basic logging there. And, that was useful, but obviously was missing a lot of the information. And for me, what was really missing was the ability to get that real-time feedback on the water. And I still have this problem today. By the time I get back to the dock and I've de-rigged the boat and maybe cracked open a beer, I've forgotten a lot of the context of what happened out there. And so if I look at my data and it says, oh, you were going really well on, leg 2 of, this race, or, this was a really good maneuver, I can never remember what I was doing differently, in that moment that caused, maybe the boat performance to be better or worse. And so a lot of what we were wanting to get out of instrumentation was to be able to get feedback while you're still out there, and then try something, see if it works, see if it doesn't work, and then try something else. And that was, we just couldn't find much in the way of tooling at the time in terms of instruments for smaller boats that were appropriate and had, all the capabilities we wanted.
Yeah, I remember might have been even late 90s. There were a couple of lasers getting around with speedos on hanging off the back of them and all sorts of stuff like to try and collect this data, which was all very big and cumbersome type thing. So there was nothing for your size. Well, the dinghy side, well, accessible. Put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, there was a few tools out there that could do some really basic stuff. Tell you how fast you're going and maybe record a basic track. But what we wanted was to get as much data as we could, but kind of the key things we really wanted to measure. Obviously, speed and position is important, but also, the heading of the boat, the actual compass thing is important. And then to get the heel and trim angles, the orientation of the boat in the water. And the more we've done this and the more different classes and sailors we've worked with, the more we've come to appreciate how critical, heel angle is on any boat and how important it is to measure it, because it's something that I think we all think we're a little better at gauging by eye or by feel than it turns out we actually are. When you throw some instrumentation on a boat, even with a pretty experienced crew, you often find, okay, we're actually not really hitting the numbers we thought we were hitting. And so that was, it was kind of putting all those pieces together into one package was what really got us started.
Yeah, I think for me, this all sparked because my wife's not a sailor, but she's by osmosis had to listen to me crap on about sailing for many years. And I was talking about digital instruments and measuring, and she said, I've got you a digital instrument that'll really help with your sailing, and got the bathroom scales out and made me stood them. She said, look, you're a fat bastard, lose 20 kilos. That was my first taste of digital tracking. But I think
you've been waiting to tell that joke for 205 episodes.
Yeah, we're here to make it happen. So, maybe we'll put
maybe we can integrate the scale too. We can do the analysis.
You got to weigh yourself.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
So Todd, when all this was going on, like obviously keen sailors and stuff, but both engineers in a whole different world, you just combine the two, or how'd that all come about?
Yeah, I mean, so I come from a software engineering background, and Jake's comes from an electrical engineering background, and that really comes together quite well because I don't really know anything about hardware, and so it was the kind of the perfect pairing to be naive enough to believe that we could actually go out and start building something, and we kept telling ourselves, oh, this will be easy, and we learned reality, but we still kept going anyway. So before Vakaros, I was doing a lot of software engineering for major brands that you've heard of, and big companies, and living that life, and decided it'd be fun to do something on my own. So here we are.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? Like that, this sort of two blokes of the same passion come together with complementary skills. That's the same as bar karate. I'm the funny one and Boss is the serious one, complementary skills. But, you started out like any good business. We're always told that all these big businesses started in a garage. And Todd, your garage, did you look at each other's garages when you made the choice, or
which one should we go in?
My basement won the very rigorous selection process for where this would begin. It wasn't like we were trying to start a company when we first started doing this. We were just trying to make basically some kit for ourselves. And then all of our friends wanted one, and their friends wanted one, and it kind of got out of control. But it was my basement's where it started, and my cat helped as much as he could. And that was the origins of the company. It was a lot of just messing about, trying to test different things.
Vakaros?
No, his name is Mastro, and he's a little black cat, and so he got named after the Puma sailing ocean yacht, the Vol 70. So
there you go. The Mastro.
Well, the other thing though, you've gone, Todd, you've gone the clean cut look, so the Bill Gates look, and Jake, you've gone the Steve Wozniak thing with the beard. So you guys, you've got possibly the biggest company in the world on your future. At least you've got the foundation right.
Yeah,
I can go put on a turtleneck real quick if you guys can wait for a second.
Yeah, this is just a stepping stone for us to go build rockets because it seems like that's what all the guys end up doing who start these companies. So it's scaling instruments and then rockets.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, build your own rocket, the Vakaros rocket.
Yeah.
Well, are you going to make it look
Next
like
phase.
a penis or what?
We got to get some designers involved in that decision.
Yeah,
They do all kind of
we'll definitely have the marketing team involved on that one. I think that was the mistake. So just a little bit of common sense, maybe.
Let's be honest though, like some of the boats these days, like, you guys, as you said, you're engineers, the design, the elements and how to make things is pretty exciting. When you look at some of the boats, like this thing behind me in this shot, the world of sailing we're experiencing now is just insane. And the ability to make what you guys make has also evolved. Only a few years ago, you couldn't produce what you guys are producing, like this is, we're living through pretty exciting times. So, rockets aren't that far away, for the general public, I think, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I think we came into this at a really good time, and I think it's both, as you say, on the technology side, there's a lot of things happening, so a lot of the technology that goes into the product we build, has its origins in, things that have been developed for, cell phones or self-driving vehicles. There's a lot of work that's happened on making sensors more, accurate, low power, smaller, better performance on GPS. So a lot of those things that we kind of, we saw those technology trends happening and tried to pick up on them as much as we could. And then on the sailing side, it has been, I think, a phenomenal, 10, 15 years in the sport, really with the advent of foiling at the high levels, starting with the Cup in San Francisco and then carrying forward from there. And I think that has driven the sport in a direction where data is becoming a much more important part, for at all levels, not just at the top level, but especially there, for the Cup teams and SailGP, data drives everything they do in terms of the way the boats are designed, how they're sailed, how the sailors think about going around the course, what's important. It's all data driven. They're using, simulators that have come out of F1 teams. The sailors actually spend a lot of time, practicing the simulator, experimenting with different ways to do maneuvers before they ever go attempt it on the water. And all that is kind of, wrapped up in this idea of using data to improve the way you're sailing the boat, and also then maximizing the time that you do get out of the water so that you can learn more and improve faster. Because I think, even for a Cup team, their time is limited, and certainly for the rest of us, our time is really limited on the water. And that was, that was one of the things that we noticed early on is if we could just make better use of the time we do have, we could probably improve a little quicker.
Yeah, it's kind of a cultural evolution too, right? It's, we're obviously the top end of the sport has always embraced technology and has led with the most advanced technology, and that's the DNA of something like the America's Cup. But the rest of the sport, the grassroots part of the sport, we feel is kind of ready for this, right? For a long time, we tried to written class rules to restrict the stuff from going too fast, from keeping the costs from going up. But as the costs have become more reasonable, and as we've seen, the technology in our pockets effectively become far and away more advanced than anything we have on our boats. And then other sports effectively showing like what we can learn from data. Like if you want to go learn how to play golf, like you're going to spend time in a swing simulator, right? You're not going to have just some old guy out there telling you how to do it. People kind of realize
I learned golf from YouTube.
Yeah, of course. There you go. Technology, right?
I can't play golf, but
yeah, but you know what a good swing looks like. So it's we feel like the sport's ready for it. So it's a good time to do this.
How do you keep up? I'm guessing from a software point of view, like there's just the amount of data that you guys are receiving now, the amount of data that you can put out, like that's a ever evolving, changing thing, just getting bigger and bigger. Like I'd imagine you turn up to work on the 1st of January, by the 31st of December that year, it's almost doubled the data you can capture or the everything you can. I forget what that exact law is called, but it's
that guy passed away a week ago.
Go pretty quick, right?
Yeah, Moore's law.
Moore's law, right? Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it's you're right. And the trick, not necessarily that we've learned how to do this, is to try to pick what you think is going to be the most significant gain to make based on, we could go develop a million things, right? And so it's really trying to focus on what's going to be the right return on investment for our customers and for the insights that we can get from it. That's tricky. I think we're getting better at it, but the amount of information we are starting to collect is definitely growing by leaps and bounds, and we're pretty excited about it because it opens a lot of doors for, again, like what can be learned from this, and what kind of value we can deliver back.
I think one of the things we've always sort of thought about as a company is looking at the top of the sport, the America's Cup, CLGP, AMOCA teams, and trying to bring not all of that, but maybe 75% of that to everyone else, right? Trying to look at what they're doing. How can we take advantage of a lot of this, but do it in a way that's cost effective for the average sailor and manageable for the average sailor as well. There's some questions that you might ask in the Olympic level that just aren't relevant, aren't practical for the rest of us to worry about. We were talking to a Olympic program recently, and they were telling us they were giving us a story from a few years ago when they were working with the Fin about how they were trying to analyze if you're sailing upwind and you need to make a control adjustment, like maybe pull on a little more Cunningham. Yeah. They were trying to determine, is it worth it to lean in the boat and pull on a little more Cunningham versus staying hiked out and waiting until you tack? And so they were going through this analysis and trying to figure out, okay, well, if you've got this much further you want to go out, before you tack, how much is it going to cost you to not have the Cunningham on versus what's it going to cost you to lean in? I'm like sitting there thinking like, okay, that's pretty cool. One, that you guys are worrying about that. But two, for me, I would love to get to a point in my sailing where the biggest thing I have to worry about is whether or not I should lean in to make a control adjustment. Like that's not where most of us are at. So it's figuring out the important things and then helping the rest of the sport, learn and improve that 70-80% that they the sort of the low hanging fruit, and leaving aside maybe some of the items that are really only relevant at the cup level or the Olympic level, where you really get down to the very, very tiny details.
It does open up the question before we get to some of the detail. I'm interested, when you first started and you came up with this idea, you're sailing around on an F-18, most of us are just trying to work out how to sneak beers on board, that sort of thing. And you guys are sailing around the F-18, you came up. What are the elements when you designed your first version? What did you have? Boat speed and G-forces for the biggest crashes, or what were the what were the things you were measuring?
We did have G-forces. It was. I think just starting with like a really good speedometer is kind of it's like step one. It's data is always going to be a garbage in, garbage out kind of problem, right? So we were really focused on sensor quality. Really getting the calibration right and making sure that we were measuring as close to truth as we could with the technology available. And that's always sort of that's part of the reason why you want to even go through the effort of making your own instrument, right? Is to really try to solve that problem. Because you look at some other tools or like watches and stuff like that, and you actually really start doing the analysis, and you kind of realize there's a lot of inaccuracy and some liberties taken effectively with those tools, because again, they're not making them for sailboats, right? Like they're trying to make products that work in all sorts of different applications, and they have different vehicle models and stuff like that. So you kind of had to start at the most base level to make sure you got the most accurate sensors you could, so that you knew going up the pyramid, all the way to the gleaming, like, how long of a leg do I need to be sailing on for it to be worth it to go grab my Cunningham, right? To be able to actually answer that question convincingly.
I think the other piece of it was thinking about sort of the user experience on the water. And one of the things I think we both settled on, really early on, having used some of the other tools that were out there at the time, which had sort of fixed character displays. So you could show maybe one number or two numbers, but that was kind of it. Couldn't really do anything else with it. And I think we knew at the beginning, and this is maybe one of the smarter things that we did, you recognize we were not going to come up with all of the cool things that we would want to be able to do with the data at the outset. right? We were going to put in a bunch of sensors, we're going to be able to take a bunch of data, but we weren't going to be able to think of all the different ways we might want to show that to somebody, or all the different things we might want to derive or measure from that data. And so having a screen that's graphical was novel at the time, even though that's standard practice for any other piece of electronics you buy. And I think in hindsight, I'm really glad that we went down that road, because it's allowed us to build an instrument and then keep improving it and upgrading it over time. And so we can bring out a new feature, and it's new software, but it's the same hardware. Whereas if we were sort of constrained by the capabilities of a limited screen, you wouldn't be able to necessarily show the user what they want to see. And I think that was a really important piece of this, and that's kind of what's allowed us to keep evolving and improving year, month after month.
Yeah.
So talk us through a typical day. Todd, you're on the VX. You've got your instruments set up, and obviously you can see the real-time data. Let's just go, is it the Atlas 2? That's just the instrument itself without any of the other sensors. What happens then afterwards? If you want to treat that day as a bit of a training day, obviously you've got the real-time data going on, but then as far as analysing where you were, going back to the second work, Jake, to say, oh, we went well there. Is that possible? Download all the stuff and have a look at graphs? So
like my workflow is, basically on the VX, I'll even have my phone in the dry bag. So like basically as we're, waiting for the crane, is I'll go ahead and download the log file, and, everyone else, around me does the same. And we have some great tools through some partners that we use that kind of do different things, right? Can either do like the macro scale of really helping us understand, basically where the gains and losses were made in a race. And then can also really help you work on the micro scale, which is understanding things like optimizing maneuvers, how well did I do that jibe? Like what's the moding that we're working on? And so basically, and then what's important to me is making that window as short as possible. The longer we go from, getting done with the sailing and actually looking at the data and then basically reliving the race, the more my ability to have recall is decreasing, right? My memory is getting worse effectively, right? Being able to recall all the little nuanced moments of the race. And then, of course, if you can have video, you get like a GoPro and do that as well. That really helps, because then you can align that to the data, and that gives you, either you can look at your sail setup, but even I will sort of looks like I'm losing my mind, but I will speak to the GoPro while I'm sailing. What I'm doing is I'm basically saying what I'm thinking or what I'm noticing, so that when I go back and look at the data, I can then have the question of were my assumptions correct, or was my observations correct, and I can have that learning experience. So trying to shorten that as much as possible, trying to take the friction out of that as much as possible is a lot of what we're about. And we're actually trying to do a lot to even make that more seamless and more automatic, so that people don't even have to really think about downloading the log files. It just happens automatically, and it's just ready. And then you can pull out your mobile device and immediately, get a beer first. Obviously, that's important. And then sit down and do the analysis at the bar and have a good conversation, like have fun talking about it, but hopefully learn something. And that's, I think, one of the most fun parts of the sport is right when we're all getting better and we're doing it together. I think it's good for the sport.
I'm guessing the trick, and one thing I've said, it's simple to make things complex, but complex to make things simple, right? So you pretty much want, from the minute you put the boat on the trailer, by the time you've got to the bar, you can see 80% of the stuff you want to see without having to press 28 different buttons and become an IT engineer in the meantime.
Exactly. We do some work with like Grand Prix level teams, and it just kind of blows my mind, right? Like what the resources they have to throw at this, right? They got, people out there pulling data off of all the different parts of the boat and the videos, and then they'll hit the dock, they'll do a little debrief then, and some person like through the night will crunch the numbers and do this big analysis and deliver this report in the morning. And I mean, it's great, but just so not accessible to any of us, right? So what we need is, is like, what's the 80% solution, right? For that will work for all of us, that, basically by the time we get to to the bar, we got the beer, and we got the 80% analysis that no one had to do. It's just there, and it can point out basically these critical moments of separation in a race, right? And you look at any race, and it's mostly boats going together, and then very small moments where something happens, right? There's a shift, or someone reached in and grabbed a Cunningham, and you get a little bit of an event that creates the gains and losses that we see. And so it's, can we quickly identify those and then point them out so we can talk about them, and then take those thoughts with us on the race course next time.
It's Bossy. I have to come in here because
I've got an idea.
Yeah, Todd. Yeah, no idea for me. But Todd started doing a bit of Bacarati with his hands. In the middle of that. I'm just going to ask, and this is critical for us. Do you think this development where you can actually bring the information in and all the data and see it straight away after you've got your beer in the bar, will that emphasize Bacarati or reduce Bacarati?
Oh, that's
a great question. I kind of hope it increases Barcarati.
100%.
Yeah, by an order of.
Now it's Barcarati with data.
I'm thinking
Barcarati with teeth. Yeah.
I'm thinking what we do here. We all walk into the bar. You've got the 20 VXs on the course. By the time you get in there, the Vakaros data page comes up on the main screen. Who had the highest boat speed? Who had the biggest angle of hill? Who leant in to adjust the Cunningham the most? And then as they're explaining it, it's the buck. Oh, that's when we rolled you. That's when we blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's only going to increase it, Jordan. I like it.
Okay, all right.
I think that should be a metric actually we track is how much Barcarati is happening in our debriefs.
You got to wear sensors on your wrist to see how quick they move against each other.
Just hold two of our instruments,
Atlas 3 with Barcarati sensors.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
What are all those things set up in? Oh, I can't get GPS in here, but we've got full triangulation. We can sort everything.
Yeah, we know. We do.
Slow motion.
So is it like from a hardware perspective, is it more about the sensors, or like what's the most important thing when you're putting
It's everything. It's everything.
Yeah, it's everything. It's
so hard. Again, think of it as I don't know, do you guys have in Australia where we used to have in the US these like food pyramids of like this is like the pathway to good nutrition, because we're experts at that in America, of course.
That's how we worked out. Bossy and I worked out we're vegans because beer is it's made from vegetables and not animals. So
and
we're basically at the top of the pyramid.
Anyway,
yeah, pretty much. So it's like that, right? So like it starts with excellent sensor quality, really getting the noise out of the measurement. And then it's the actual way you do the measurements. And then it's the basically the method of transport. And is that reliable? Is it fast? And is it, easy? Right? Do people have to go through a lot of work, right? Like if you have something where you got to plug it in and take it to your laptop to get the data, that's it's already a fail in our book, right? Because, that you're already going to reduce how many people actually go through that step. And, then it gets to the, yeah, well, exactly. Right. Yeah. That would be awkward if you brought your laptop and your devices to the bar. So you're not going to make many friends that way. So, and then it becomes to the flying and then the analysis, and it's all the steps.
And it's also the ability for the user to customize, based on what kind of boat you're sailing, and that can be, we have a lot of support that we've brought out for different classes that do have restrictive rules, like the Etchells class, for example. You're only allowed certain things while you're on the water racing, and we've brought out a capability where you can lock the instrument down in an Etchells class compliant mode. So there's that, but also in different boats, different metrics are more or less important, or maybe for the kind of training that you're doing on a specific day, you're really focused on VMG or heel angle or some other metric. And so having the ability to customize what you're seeing while you're out there, we think is really important, so that you can focus on what matters. And then the other thing we finally, and this has taken a lot longer than we had originally hoped, but that's just kind of how these things go. We finally started to have the ability to do some really cool on the water drills as well using the instrument. So not only can you take your data and analyze it afterwards, but trying to give you more than just, okay, here's how fast you're going, here's what your heel angle is, trying to give you real insight on the water. So one of the things we brought out recently is the ability to measure how much attack or a jibe costs you. How many meters did you lose in that maneuver? And one, that's a great training tool because you can just go out and do 10 tacks in a row and figure out, okay, that's what good tack actually feels like in these conditions with this crew that I have on board on this boat. It's different in different boats. It's different in different conditions. And as we've learned, what feels fast is often not the fastest way to tack, and vice versa. Sometimes a tack that feels kind of slow and methodical actually can turn out to be more efficient. So having a way to measure that and get a number right after the maneuver, go do another one, just drill on it while you're still out there, rather than getting back to the bar and saying, okay, tack 7 was really good, but does anybody remember what we did on tack 7? That, at least I can't remember. So we're trying to do more of that as well, bringing some of the analytics tools onto the water with you. And then when you do come back to review the data, you have the advantage of kind of having a little more insight that you gathered while you were still out there.
Just back to the hardware side of things. So Todd, you have these super software. Oh, we're going to do this, going to do that. Hey, Jake, just sort this out, can you? Can you just make an ultrasonic wind sensor?
Yeah.
Do you use third parties for some of the instrumentation side, the sensor side of things, or your ideas, third party manufacture? How's all that work?
Yeah, so the core instruments all designed by us. The sensors themselves, the GPS receiver, for example, is obviously made by somebody else, but we've carefully selected for best performance and worked with those companies to kind of optimize how we're using their sensor for our application. The way you would use that GPS to measure the position of an autonomous vehicle is going to be different than how you approach a sailboat versus someone who's out for a jog. And so understanding how to optimize the setup is really important, and that's something that takes a lot of back and forth with the manufacturer who understands their hardware really well, but also then testing on our end to make sure that the assumptions that they're making and that we're making can be validated with data. So that's part of it. And then for things that we can't measure with the core instruments, so for example, wind speed or speed through water, load, force state tension, that sort of thing. We've started working with some really great partners who build other sensors that we can integrate with wirelessly, and I think that list is just going to continue to grow. And you're starting to see this kind of ecosystem of interconnectable wireless products that work on smaller boats, and it's really great to finally see that happening, because the small boat instrumentation for a long time has been very limited. Maybe you could get boat speed,
and very expensive too.
Very expensive, yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so our customers end up choosing how much of that they need. If you're on a dinghy, you probably just use the core instrument. If you're on a Vakaros 24 or a J70, you might add speed through water or wind information or load data. There's the cool thing about that is it's great to have, say, let's take load, for example. It's great to have that up on the screen. It's even better to have that in the data log with all your other sailing data, because then you can go back in and say, all right, we were going upwind really well here. What was the force state tension? And then the next time you go out, you can replicate that number to the kilogram.
All right. So
I've just updated our instrument package on the Etchel. Bit of load cell data coming in.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of shit.
Well, that's the beauty.
Might be over capitalizing a little.
I think that is the beauty of it, though, because when you're out there training by yourself, you can look at everything. But if you say you're on an Etchel and you can't have all that stuff, at least you can do that work by yourself, and then you can go from there. The thing,
exactly.
Say there's people listening to this and they've just gone, oh yeah, like I've got my little compass, and let's throw it right back. You've got one of those old round compasses that split into the quadrants, and even instead of being even compass numbers, it's got the 1 to 8 and all that sort of blue and red, and you're on your little boat and you're just going, you don't look at those things because they're so stupid. And kids, the smaller your boat, the bigger your compass is the old rule. But now we don't have to worry about that. Well, no, that's true. So you don't get all the movement. So now we don't have to worry about it. What do you see on let's actually first question, is it Vakaros? Is it Vakaros? What's the actual, and where does that name come from? And then what do you see on the product? What are the things you see with the Atlas 2?
Yeah, so the name. Sort of our official answer is we never correct anybody out. As long as you're saying it, we're happy. So We say Vakaros. We did, about 5 minutes of Googling to try to figure out if that was really the right way to say it or not. So I think we've got a good foot to stand on there. So I wish I could roll my R's because then it would sound way better.
Yeah, big Spanish.
But and it's yeah, I know, right? It would sound much more sophisticated.
Just
it's
to
either
interrupt for
depending
one
on your
sec.
translation.
Sorry to interrupt for one sec, Bossy. We could do them a favour. We could get Nettie to do a pitch for them in Spanish.
It debucking Vakaros.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Perfect. Yeah, no, it's good. It's depending on your translation, it's either a wind guide or an evening breeze.
Copy.
And again, get to the origins of the company, right? It's like 4 a.m. And we were getting real tired of trying to pick a name for this thing because we wanted to get back to the engineering. So that was available. We were like, oh, it's got kind of a wind element to it. It sounds kind of cool. Done. This marketing department meeting is convened.
Beautiful.
4 a.m.
Yeah,
it was a short one.
It was. We were pretty tired, but we like it, and we think people like it too. So, but yeah, we always like to hear the different versions of how people say the name.
Yeah. So, I mean, but then so you've got your old clunky compass on your boat, and you're coming into the next century. What do you see when you unwrap it? Like, what are you going to get? What's the information that you'll get when you're out sailing?
Yeah. So kind of the sort of default setup that a lot of folks start with, you're going to get your compass setting and the ability to track lifts and headers. You get your boat speed with both maximum speed and average. Everyone loves, of course, to know their max speed, even though that's not necessarily the most critical information while you're out there, but it is fun. Yeah. And then you get heel and trim angles, the orientation of the boat, roll and pitch. And for a lot of boats, that's a really good starting point. And I think, we kind of recommend, if you've never sailed it before, you've never used this kind of instrumentation before, start with that, see how it goes, and sort of figure out what are the key variables that you're paying attention to on that boat. And I'll give you an example, like the Star class, just because of the shape of the hull, trim or pitch actually really, really matters for those guys. It's important on, a lot of boats, really important on a 49er for sure. But the Star class, they really appreciated having that number up on the screen. And it was something that they hadn't had access to before. And they were finding it's really useful to have it both live so they can kind of try to stay on track with whatever that optimal number is for them, but also to have it in the data so they could kind of start to make that correlation between when they were getting it right and how the boat was going. And so, a different boat, maybe that number is not as critical, so maybe you'd swap that out for something like VMG. But it's start there and then customize to your heart's content. Early on, one of the sailors we got to work closely with was Ian Williams in the M32 class, and he, I think, had an unintentional influence on the design of the product. He was very particular about his display layout. He wanted to have, I forget what it is now, if it was speed and then heading below it or vice versa. And he wanted, one of the numbers to be black characters on a light background, and the other one to be the reverse. And it was very, very specific, and it was the opposite of the way we had just sort of picked doing it at the time. And I think Todd got tired of making, special firmwares for Ian. And so we eventually just said, all right, we're going to just make this so anyone can change it. We're going to build an app. And now you can customize it and have, you can have the Ian Williams layout if that's what you like. So it is ultimately very customizable for the end user.
Yeah, I mean, adaptability is critical, right? Yeah, because we're on laser all the way to maxis, and it's just how do you build an instrument that can cover that spread? So everyone needs to be able to adopt the instrument to what their tastes are, what their needs are. So we allow you to basically change the layout to whatever you want. You can change the performance of the sensors, to what you want. And of course, for the data, pick what information you want to get out of it. So, and we're always trying to improve that because, we're always learning that, more about the sport, but also, more about what people want.
Probably getting a bit technical here, but a boat like a Star or an Etchell, most often or not, you mount the instrument on the rig. I'm guessing the trim is gauged by the instrument. Is that what's the
the Star sailors
around there?
Yeah, so like the Star, that mast they manipulate all over the place. So they've been mounting to the deck. For the Etchells, that's a good question. Can you rake the Etchells mast forward pretty aggressively like you do a Star?
It doesn't move that much. It's just chocked.
but it would move
Yeah.
1 or 2 degrees,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
depending on how critical
Yeah.
you want to look into it. But
I would
thought,
say
obviously.
probably the bottom of the mast, right? That
Yeah.
lever arm is a little left, right?
Yeah, of
so
course.
it's probably not so bad down there. But again, that'd be something to measure and kind of make a determination.
Yeah, if you're-
and
We do have the ability to offset a bit. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
I was just going to say, if you get to the point of trying to measure, leading in to adjust that Cunningham, then you really gotta get the instrument dialed in on the platform.
yeah, sure. But you calibrate the heel and trim to
Yeah, you can zero
calibrate
it.
it. So when your rig is at 0, so your trim's at whatever that point is going to be.
So in my research, one of the things that I saw was all the work you're doing with the M32s, and there was this whole thing about the starting and the OCS stuff, which I hadn't even really considered, that from the perspective of the race committee, trying to call someone over the line when the boats are starting to go so fast nowadays, like maybe that's why I got ACS all the time, because I was so fast.
That's why.
Self praise is no praise.
Yeah, that's correct. And well-deserved insult. Thanks for that. So that to me then, so you talked about this speed and heel and trim and blah, 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 but there's this whole other element around the starting and positioning, which so you can use it as a race committee, but you can also, I assume, see it on your own instrument. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's something we've been working on actually for a long time, but it's kind of coming back to that pyramid analogy. That sits at the very top of the pyramid. You've got to have this foundation of really great quality sensors and really great instrumentation, and then we had to add the ability for the instruments to talk to each other. So when they're out there and they're running race sense, the instruments are communicating with the race committee. They're communicating with the other boats, and so they know the locations and the marks that set up the starting line or other marks on the course. They know where the other boats are, and then because we have that accuracy built into the instrument, now we're able to do what we call race sense, which is starting with the start, but ultimately we'll cover the whole course. And so that's synchronizing everyone's start timers. So if you're sailing on a race sense course, you don't even have to listen for the horns or watch the flags. Your start timer is just going to start counting down, completely synchronized with everyone else's.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll know, 15 minutes ahead of the next race. Whenever the race committee says they know what the start time is, that gets put in the system and everybody gets it. And so you'll know how much time you got to the next start. You'll know where the position of the starting line is. And if you're sailing in a class like the Etchells, where that information isn't permitted as part of the class rule, we can hide that from the sailor, but the instrument still knows where it is in relation to the starting line. And then when the timer hits 0, we look at where the line was at that moment. We look at where your boat was, and not just the position of the instrument, but actually the full outline of the boat. Where was the bow? Where was the transom? And we figure out if any part of that boat was over the starting line. And if it was, you get notified immediately with a big flashing red light that you can't miss, OCS on the screen, and race committee gets notified as well. And kind of the idea here is, one, the boats are getting faster, so it's hard to make these calls. 2, at least in the US, it's getting harder to find volunteers. The average age of a volunteer on race committee is getting older. So, there's challenges just in getting racing organized. And 3, human race committees make mistakes. It's a really hard job, even in the best of circumstances, either with fast boats or large fleets. It's really, really difficult to get these calls right. It takes a lot of people on the water. It takes a lot of infrastructure on the water, a lot of boats on the water who aren't participating in racing, but have to be out there to support what's happening. And so the idea is, let's use technology to, simplify some of this, make it a little bit easier, and take inspiration from what they've done at the Cup and SailGP, where this technology is now the gold standard, and they wouldn't go back to doing it the old-fashioned way, flags and whistles.
Wow. I mean, with the marks that can be positioned by GPS and everything, you could be just having one dude sitting in the bar just doing the whole racing electronically, never have to leave.
That's what they all ask for. That's what every race committee guy or every PRO we talk to, that's always the next question after we sort of explain it, is that, can I sit at the bar and do this? And the answer is, we're going to make that dream come true.
That's cool. Hey, there's a rumor I heard, you guys are US based, right? And, we talked at length on Vakaros about when Paul Kayard took over US sailing there, and we noticed a sudden influx of moustaches amongst the US sailing team. Is it true US Sailing actually asked for a sensor from you guys to measure moustache thickness? Is this true?
Cannot confirm nor deny. So
it was a probe. You can mount it on
NDAs may be in place.
You can mount it on the end of the carbon pole for the wind sensor.
Yeah, that's right. There's a reason I'm not showing you part of the lab. We got some things going on.
Yeah, just
a lot of mustaches over here, over.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So from a coaching perspective then, so we're sort of covered off, like from a Sali, you're going to get this stuff. Can you see the information as a coach? Like is that something you can do as well? I suppose you can't you? It's all sharing info.
Yeah, that's a big part. So we built this big, on the water mesh network system for RaceSense, right? Because we didn't want to depend on LTE because, different places, like you just can't, it doesn't work, right? How many times you build in the water and your phone didn't work? So we spent all this effort on getting that built. It makes all the sense in the world that the same network you built for managing the race course can also be used for coaching. And so it gives that live feedback for, the coaches out there on the rib. He can be sitting there. He can see basically all the data for all the boats. And more importantly, he can see all the deltas. So like if he has a wind sensor, he can effectively see things like VMG and ladder rungs. So yeah, bringing back to moding, right? Like if you got 49ers, which have quite a wide groove, right? You can start doing all this tests and really get this sort of, pretty much instantaneous result of like, yes, boat A is starting to stretch ahead. And it's not visibly obvious. You really do need data to see that. And this is, not new. This is exactly what they do at the cup level. But yeah, making that so that it's just a system really that anyone can go out and use and isn't really that complicated is a pretty key goal of ours, and all the way from juniors to people like me.
Yeah, okay. Well, that comes back to that whole self-coaching discussion that I want to do with me, my worst student. That moding element, the VMG element, and I've got this boat that I'm sailing, and everyone says, "Oh, you do this and do that," and I'm going, "Well, why? Why?" So
because that's what we always do.
Yeah, that's right. And so I want to know: can I, if I was grabbing Vakaros and stuck that on my boat, can I self-mode whilst I'm out, or can I do the analysis afterwards, or how does that work?
Yeah, so you can run VMG on the water, and that was the funny thing about that is that's one of those features that there's a ton of complexity behind it to make it work. Yeah. But it wasn't something we were able to get to very quickly, but we're there now. Wow. And so you can go out and sail either with a wind sensor or even without a wind sensor, and basically show the instrument what the wind direction is, and then it'll show you what your VMG is, upwind or down, and it's hugely helpful for moding because what you don't really, what we ultimately all care about actually is VMG. You don't actually care, am I going faster or slower through the water necessarily? It's, am I making more progress towards my objective, the next mark on the course, or if there are no marks out there, am I making more progress at least in the direction of the wind? Right, then it's on you to make sure you're sailing in a good shift, but at least you're making good progress, in terms of traveling on the water with the boat. And so being able to measure that live then lets you experiment quickly, and you can basically train against yourself. So, all the breeze is consistent. It hasn't changed in, either intensity or direction. You can experiment and say, okay, I'm going to try sailing a little higher, a little lower. I'm going to experiment with, different sail setup and see what actually is working for you. And it's, like you said, a lot of sailing is sort of, well, you go, if the wind is doing this, then you set the rig up this way and you sail the boat this way. And, sometimes that information is correct and built up over time, but it doesn't necessarily have a ton of data behind it. And the moment you kind of get off the tuning guide, well, then what do I do? So having a way to actually try it and measure it is what we're all about.
This is interesting. I know I've never mentioned the 5.0 class on here very much, but
this is unusual.
So unusual. But a classic example is that, on the 5.0, when you're sailing downwind, there's a mode where you go from sailing square to you drop the pole to the forestay and, you go full noise. And then there's the argument between the Euros that you sort of drive it lower a little bit, and then the Yanks where you just keep lining, loading it up and let the apparent bring you down. And so that whole thing could be quantifiable with your instrument. And because the rule is basically, in the 5-0 park, they'll say, the sooner as the crew's on the wire, then you go shy downwind. That's the basic rule, and that's as much science has gone into it, But suddenly we could quantify that, if I was coaching in that class, you could just go, oh, yeah, here we go, let's find out.
Yeah, exactly. It's find out, try it, and understand. And what you might find in some situations is the difference between going high and going low isn't that great, right? Maybe in some conditions, those two are actually kind of making about the same amount of progress. Yeah. That's useful information too, because then that opens up tactical choices. Maybe you want to go high to get to better pressure or to cover a competitor, or go low for the same reason, or to make a particular gate. So it's really helpful to understand what your options are and what the costs are. If you can do a better jibe, then you can jibe on a smaller shift. And if you can understand your moding, then you can figure out different choices that you'd have on the course.
It's cool, isn't it? Like I wonder.
I didn't know.
Yeah, go on.
I was just going to make a joke that apparently national pride is on the line.
Yeah.
If the Yanks do it one way and the Aussies do it the other, should we answer that question? Like, what if we don't like the result?
Depends what hemisphere you're in as well. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Because the wind goes the other way down here. See. So.
Yeah.
It goes around the world the other way. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Again, getting a little bit technical, but if you got a bunch of instruments out on the water communicating with each other, what protocols used there? Is it 5G or?
Oh, that's a really good question. And it's really one that we developed because we could not really find anything that really checked all the boxes for what we needed on the water, and also works in any country, and it's actually very challenging to find.
Not in Israel at the moment, maybe.
Maybe not. So yeah. We'll have to see about that. But yeah, it was pretty challenging. So that's one of the reasons why it took us a little bit longer than we thought, is we ended up having to develop a protocol to do this.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well,
one of the cool things we've got to do recently was to chat with Stan Honey a little bit, who developed the system at the Cup. Super talented navigator in addition to being an awesome engineer. Very cool guy. And we got to talk a little with him just to kind of pick his brain. And he was just telling us some of the things that they went through developing that system. The neat thing was, the more we talked to them, the more we kind of realized we'd settled on some of the same solutions that they'd had to go to. Because it's like any good engineering problem, when you start to get down to it, there's only so many ways you can solve solving the problem with all the different constraints that you're dealing with. The number of boats you want to support, the ability to operate anywhere in the world, so that restricts which frequencies you can use. So we ended up building a system unintentionally, but that emulates a lot of the things that they did at the Cup.
Yeah, well, because I'm just think during all the ocean race stuff, all the communication basically had to build our own local network, which costs a lot of money. But and I would see the cherry picker getting set up and all the aerials and I'm like, there has to be a better way.
Yeah, no, that's a huge part of it, right? Was we started, Todd and I were watching the Cup in San Francisco and then in Bermuda, and watching the system that they had developed really for TV coverage, but then they were using it for race management. And you look at it and say, okay, that's really cool. How could we do this for the rest of the sport? And then you start thinking about it and you realize, okay, well, they got 3 helicopters overhead, and they got 6 guys in a shipping container, and they got licensed radio spectrum that they got special access to use, and they've got $100,000 worth of equipment on every boat. That doesn't really scale to the rest of the sport. And so that's been the hard part. It's been figuring out, how do we take a system that does more or less the same thing, but do it in a way that anyone can go set up, that doesn't require all that infrastructure. And that's kind of the part that's been the most difficult.
Wow. Jeez, you guys are smart.
Like I said at the beginning, I think it would be smarter if we'd gone and found an F-18 training partner. Then we would be
But the funniest thing about, we've just gone that, and it's like, ooh, are we recording this? We're not that smart.
We've only ever done that once. We did one episode. Oh my God, we had a nightmare. When I was in Ireland. I don't know what the problem was there, boss.
Oh no. But it had a 4-leaf clover drawn on the top of it.
Yeah. But it must be like you got the whole element of what you're coming up with and your ideas, and that whole network thing, I hadn't even considered that element of it, and to come up with the solutions for that to make it work. And it does seem like you're offering pretty much everything that you need. Like it's genius. You must be immensely proud, for one, of what you've done.
Oh yeah.
Well, the first race that we ran Racents in, and we're out there, and of course we're acting like, oh yeah, it's going to be completely fine, like no problems, like we've tested this a million times and we have no concerns at all. And then we ran the first race and everything worked, and Jake and I looked at each other like, oh my god, nothing broke. I can't believe that it all works exactly like we designed. And we were basically pitching ourselves, so that was a pretty amazing moment.
You're not
we worked so long for it.
Ninth over the line out of 11, and you're high-fiving each other.
Right. Yeah. All right. We had some customers who are they had the OCS flights going off, and they were obviously having a terrible start, and we're like celebrating on the race committee boat.
Cool.
Just quick, I've just read almost finished it, the James Dyson book about just the whole journey that he went on, and prototypes was a massive part of it. As far as prototypes went, I'm guessing you probably got a couple of thousand just under the bench type thing. Well, not a thousand, but
I have shelffuls. Yeah. I have like a graveyard of like pre-atlases in my basement.
Yeah.
It always takes way more than you think it will.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I wouldn't imagine anything less. And I mean, all the other elements you deal with, like the waterproofness, the communication side, the data rate, the screen is one.
Yeah. Getting the screen right was really important to us. We did a lot of testing early on. At the time we started, some of the other instruments that were out there, you couldn't read them if you're wearing polarized sunglasses, which
exactly
doesn't work so great on the water. So getting that right was really key. And then the waterproofing. I mean, it's hard to think of a worse place to put a piece of electronics.
Exactly. Yeah,
let's go. Kiteboards now, which when those guys wipe out, they're hitting the water pretty hard. And then the customer base is sailors, and we're not necessarily the friendliest to gear, just sort of across the board. So it's.
I think abusive is the word I would use.
Abusive.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's cool. I mean, we're kind of at the end of our time, but I didn't know what to expect coming in on this, but you guys sort of clearly have been you're into it, and it's good. That's what we want. That's what we love. And I feel, in all honesty, that, you could help more sailors be into their sailing.
That's our hope.
That's the goal. Yeah. That's the whole purpose of the company. Honestly, is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's on the sort of instrumentation and data side. It's like, how can we basically help the learning curve for everybody improve? Because I think if you're a racing sailor and you're not already winning, then that's actually sort of the ingredients of fun for you. Is, am I better today than I was yesterday? And then for the race sense and sort of the managing on the course side, it's like, how can we really emphasize the things that are fun, and how can we remove the things that are not fun, right? So like black flags are not fun. U flags are not fun. 5 general recalls in a row is not fun. And going to the protest room because race committee called the wrong number or couldn't get all the boats right. And, some guy wants redress, all that stuff. I think we can do without. And so if we can use technology to solve those kind of problems, it's going to be better for the sport and just better for our enjoyment and our time in the water, and making our time on the water more efficient, right? Because we're all time poor. And that's not going to get better, unfortunately. So, let's try to do what we can to maximize it.
And let's face it, we all love a bit of data, right? So, and we've seen it in the fitness industry, whether it's cycling or running, and you get back and you analyze your run and how fast was I running, and all those different elements, which add the cool bit to it, of which kids kind of want to see, I'm guessing, in this day and age.
Yeah. We had a youth coach tell us something I thought that was really smart, a couple of years ago. And he said, the kids he's coaching, they come off the water and they get on their phones and they're on Instagram or whatever. He said, I can't stop them from getting on their phones, but let's get them on their phones looking at sailing data.
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought that was kind of meet the kids where they're at, but get them engaged with on the business
Yep.
side.
Yeah.
I think that's for you.
Bloody hats off, guys. This is
And the most important thing is you're going to emphasise there will be more Baccarati. So like you pretty much you've succeeded.
Ticked all the boxes.
Way more.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Might be some sort of
the next day big.
The Nobel.
The next big data debrief after a regatta we have, I'm going to send you guys a picture of everyone doing bar karate, looking at the screen, seeing the data, the numbers. I'll get that to you.
I love it. Love it. All right, lads. I think we're going to have to call it. Much as I do not want to end this conversation, I'm having too much fun. Who'd have thought? Hey, talking to a couple of engineers would be fun.
I'm thinking of adding a bit of instrumentation at this level to the new awnings.
Electric awnings. Yeah. You can measure the trim level straight away. All right, lads. Thanks for joining us, mate. We'll look forward to a long-term relationship.
Absolutely. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having us.
So much fun, BP. So much fun. The interesting thing, and you didn't get to hear that yet because you'll have to listen when we publish, it was one of those discussions where we just kept talking afterwards. We ended up probably talking for another 45 minutes afterwards. If we ever did that Patreon thing, which I refuse to do.
Patreon.
Is it? Whatever it is.
We could just add it on to the end.
Oh, there's some of the conversations we have afterwards are just fantastic, and this was one of them. And I've got a suspicion they're going to be coming to Australia, and we're going to be having quite a few million beers together. So it was a good one, bud.
A few million beers. Yeah. Very good. Well, the status. If they've reached that point, then they're definitely Baccaratians then.
There you go.
Now, BP, what I will tell you, though, is that their instrument works.
Right.
And the reason I know this, I haven't used it on a boat. Well, not a sailing boat, but used it, actually broke it out of the box on Keilman's fishing boat, power boat.
Oh, there you go.
On our trip back from Port Lincoln. And I've got to tell you, I know the exact hill we take when the fridge flies open.
How's your ley lines?
It was a bit rocky rolly. The ley lines were good. The start was good.
Yeah.
And we knew exactly where the tuna were. So, yeah.
And how deep it was.
I love it. I've just got this vision of your next ocean trip and one of Keilman's lad on the boat, and the boat starts rocking, and you go, oh.
No, we're good. We're good. Oh, there we go.
Better run down and close the fridge door.
I'd like to expand on that for the listeners out there. It is a power boat. I don't know what sort of boat it is, but it's a power boat. But I've got you at the 5-minute gun, circling around the spot. And you got your
mate, the 5-minute gun. We're still asleep. That's the beauty of these boats. All you do is fire the engine up and undo the lines. You're off.
And off you've gone. You've done a pre-start. You've decided which end of the line you're going to start, and off you go.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah,
cool.
Good. Well, It sounds like a fantastic product, and they're looking forward to getting my hands on one.
Very cool. All right, shall we go into the other news, boys?
Yes, other news.
That's what we're here for.
Okay. Club events. We do. I'm a little biased. The Finns are getting some love again. They had the Ronston Victorian State Champs over the weekend at Davies Bay Yacht Club. They're getting a good turnout. And this, remember I talked about the publicity thing?
Big rap as well for the event. Apparently was fantastic.
Yeah. But you know how they were doing the under-23 thing, and they were going to give cheaper entries and all this sort of stuff it's really starting to work. And so at the Vic States, they had 4 young lads in the under-23s pop up. So it's working. So if you're in another class thinking about what you can do, it's working. And Knocker, Anthony Nossiter, the famous Australian fin sailor, he won the regatta pretty clearly. But not only did he win the regatta, from Jamie Beavis, I think, from memory, he gave each of the entrants that were in the under-23 that were new to the class a new mainsail or one of his sails. So there was 4, And so he gave away four.
Well, no wonder he won the regatta. He used a new mainsail every day.
Yeah.
He just gave it away.
Oh,
That's how you get away with it.
Four mainsails and a signed pair of budgie smugglers.
yeah, budgie smugglers. That's right. Anyway, I think we have always planned to get Knocker on the show. There's no doubt,
We've got to do it. We have sort of had him a little bit once. But,
sort of.
That was a flyby.
Yeah, the flyby. But I mean, we see Knocker around the place all the time, so it's just a case of us fitting it all in. But yeah. So
well worth it.
Well worth it. But anyway, the Finn classes seem to have got it working out. The next states I don't know, but there is the one coming up in Brisbane. I still haven't said yes, but getting close.
Yeah, well, and that's with that format, which would kind of suits our style.
It's a good format. 3 races
Morning
in
racing,
the morning,
lunch,
and a long afternoon. It's it's a good format. As you get older, that's a much more appealing format.
Bet by 8, you reckon?
Yeah, perfect, BP. Exactly.
Click on the goon box, watch a bit of maths, go to sleep.
Forget
perfect regatta, Bicey.
God, all the young kids are turning off right now. They're going, listen to these old idiots. Righto, Bossy, you're going over to New South Wales. The Sale Port Stephens is coming up.
Yes, well, Newcastle first,
Newcastle.
And then Sale Port Stephens in May, early May.
Yep.
So Newcastle's only in a couple of weeks away for that. Sale Fest, let's call it, and then up to a few weeks after that, we're up to Port Stephens, of which I have not sailed at for quite a number of years, but from memory, cracking place.
Off the top of your head, it is a cracking place.
Yeah, no, it'd be a good regatta.
Just don't go too far out in the middle on the right-hand side and hit that sandbar.
Yeah. It does look like it's turned into, and don't go surfing there that often because there's plenty of sharks. It's a white point of breeding ground. It is turning into quite a major regatta on the Australian calendar, to be honest. Like there's a few major regattas, and because of its proximity, it's not that far north of Sydney. On the east coast, it is dragging a lot of numbers. It's good to see there's definitely a lot of love and opportunity to go sailing at the moment in Australia. It's good time of year for it too. Absolute ball.
Yeah.
And the Novocastrians, good bunch of people. Some talented sailors come out of those waters as well. So get into it if you're interested. The other one I want to mention, and BP, I think you jumped onto this first for the Magenta project, the Race for Equity, Regatta and Gala. So they're having a regatta and a gala evening dinner where everyone gets to dress up and they have networking and silent auctions to raise funds for the Magenta product. It's on the 26th of May at the Royal Ocean Racing Club at the Cows Clubhouse. There will be regatta charters available, training and racing, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I think Sunsail have partnered up into this if you want to charter a boat and you're going to just jump on a plane to be part of it.
We're huge fans of the Magenta project. It's been going now for quite a few years and we'll do everything we can to get it out there. But if you are in the area or if you feel like a trip to Cows, I think it'll be a great thing to get behind.
Are these the cows that are relieved?
Yeah. No, they're pissed. They're pissed off.
Oh, pissed off that yeah, right. I'm confused.
Well, actually, the ones over in Cows are a bit happy because it's getting warmer again.
Yeah. So
they've been out in the snow for the last, 3-4 months.
Good point.
The snow's just starting to melt off their noses.
Cool. Shall we go on to Jack Lloyd Listener of the Week, boys?
We shall. We've had a couple of come in this week.
A little bit late ones, a couple of late mails. Yeah.
Yeah, a few late mails, but one of which has a bit of a storyline behind it with our mate Chris Bolger.
Yeah, I think most people know that story, but go on. Who's got it? Who's doing it?
Go Bossy.
Oh, me doing it?
Yeah.
Oh. So during the week, obviously, we a few weeks ago, we mentioned about Chris who had come for the ultimate sailing trip. And he spent quite a bit of time at the 18s and he said, how lucky you guys, you have the best setup, blah, blah, blah. And he just absolutely loved it and was blown away.
For those, and then we've talked about Chris before. He's the guy behind NASA, the North American A-Class Sailing Association, I think it is. They're doing that whole the thing at Newport where they're trying to create basically like the 18s. They're trying to create this whole series, and they're giving scholarships and all that. So he's one of these blokes that gives and gives and gives to the sport.
And then, speaking of giving, in a classic return serve, we receive an email throughout the week from the Commodore of the 18-footers, Simon Nern, saying, gents, great piece you did the other day, mentioned the JJ Gilton, including the misspell on the results. Love the show and always great to get a mention. You had a listener of the week waxing lyrical about his trip to Sydney and watching the 18s. Would love to send him some of our merch if you could ask him to get to send his details. Now, I must admit, I had a little bit of a chuckle there.
Yep.
Because, we've probably said to Chris we'll send him a merch pack. And Simon will send him a merch pack. So maybe we could join up, Australia Post, get on board.
We got a couple of stickers.
Stubby holder in.
Yeah, I've got one here, actually. We'll throw it in there.
So there's been a bit of good banter throughout the week between a few people in regards to that. But yeah, look, just bringing the world of sailing closer together. Love it.
I love
one side of the world to the other.
So the 18 fleet super chuffed about someone enjoying their stuff so much, and they're obviously big listeners to the show. The other one that I find interesting, and we've got a few emails on this, is we talked about the Flying 15s. We gave the world a bit of a wrap up because it was on board in Australia. They've made the effort to come out here. We thought they deserved a little bit of love, and so we certainly gave them a little bit of love. One of the things that we got a note this morning from Ed Simpson, who's based in the UK, and was talking about where the name Bodie McBoatface came from, which was the poll for the polar, where they had a poll for the Polar Research Vessel to come up with a name, and everyone
a democratic vote.
Yeah, democratic vote, and then they completely
absolutely
ignored it.
Open.
Everyone voted for Bodie McBoatface, and they named the boat Sir David Attenborough. Anyway, but
despite the heavily weighed name towards Bodie
10 times more people voted that way. But anyway, and that's where Floaty McFloatface with the F came from. And then he talks about his work with the Royal Hospital School in East England. He runs a sales schooling program. It is quite nice. Goes on for a bit, but anyway, if you're interested, the Royal Hospital School in the east of England. I just thought I'd quickly plug that. But the other thing that came...
Go on. Just before you go on, just the funniest thing about that was they named the boat, the main boat, Sir David Attenborough, but the actual Bodie McBoatface was a submarine.
Okay.
Yeah. It was one of the life raft boats or whatever it was. So
yeah. Actually, while we're still talking about Ed, on another note, we recently had our traditional season curtain raiser here in the UK, the Dinghy Show, organised by the governing body for sailing. One of the people manning the graduate stand, which is a national class here, caught my eye, and I thought you'd appreciate the photographic evidence that the tash and mullet look is alive and well here in the United Kingdom. So moustache,
ain't that right, my friend?
It's a beauty. It's an absolute beauty. It's an absolute beauty.
I love it.
It's good to see.
I appreciate everyone sending in. But then the next thing that happened was the Sandgate Yacht Club emailed us. Now, Sandgate Yacht Club is here in Queensland. It's actually very, 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 very close to the start of where the Brisbane to Gladstone yacht race will be going from, right next to the Queensland Cruising Yacht Club. And the Sandgate Yacht Club is the club where the Flying 15s, one of the clubs where the Flying 15s sail from here in Brisbane, Queensland. And I am prone to sneaking down there occasionally just to have a bit of a look when I'm driving past. And the boys sent a photo through. Now, obviously, funny names in Flying 15s is a thing, okay? So we've got a photo of the stern of two boats. And one is...
that funny names with two Fs?
Yes, that's it. One is Toughen Up, which is TUFFAN up, right?
Yeah.
And then the second one is possibly the funniest name I've ever seen on a boat, and it's FF Sake. And now... that's how we write for F sake. That's the Australian way of writing for fuck's sake. Anyway, so I quite like that one. So Sandgate Yacht Club, and good on them. Do sneak down there. Sort of a little tiny yacht club doing a good job. But yeah, couple of good listeners of the week.
Love it. Keeps us busy during the week, checking out what rolls in on all the platforms for that matter. So keep writing in. Team.
Yeah,
love it.
Appreciate it so much.
I'll put a patent on a name. I'll put a patent on a Flying 15 name.
What's
and then
that?
anyone can ring us up and use it. We can go something like F off.
No,
as well.
won't work.
No, won't work.
Too aggressive.
Too aggressive.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's got the S there.
Yeah, that's right. You got the F bit right.
That's the game, isn't it?
That is the game. It's got to be humorous. Righto.
It's hot time with Bice.
Well, gentlemen, back to the ocean race, and everyone is glued to the
absolutely
to the tracker. The Grand Southern Ocean delivery trip has finished. First boat has arrived, as predicted. Guyot Environment.
Yep, absolutely
on their
smashed the Atlantic.
South Atlantic delivery trip, made it across. Not unharmed, though, I might add. Just recent news in, they had a little altercation. I think
with the cradle.
No, with the some sort of unidentified floating object. May have been the Sunfish Union, just hanging out in the close to the Brazilian coast. Good time to
they're
do
on their
it this
way
time
on their way home from the Hobart, so that's where they would be.
So they're there, but as we're looking at the tracker now, Militia are currently leading by 61 miles against Wholesome. PRB.
Put a little bit out overnight.
After our good friend Rozzy had a bit of a fall.
Had a little bit of a stack and decided she wanted to listen to our other good friend Abby Ella's experiment of falling out of a cot.
Correct.
Yes.
She might have been reading Abby's little blog about laying on a slippery dip naked.
Okay.
So for the listeners, as we record this, it's Militia is 118 miles from the finish. Wholesome's 181. So Militia's doing 21 knots. Wholesome's doing 17.
Just a 5 hours in by lunch.
Yeah, in by lunch. By the time we publish, they'll probably be in. But there's quite a bit of pressure, and it's just starting to go through. And Militia, remember they were going into that hole, and Wholesome sort of got right back, and it looked like a match race. And then it got super windy again, and Militia started to creep forward. The bad news for fans of Biotherm, she looks like she's about to get sucked into a hole. She's going to drop out of that wind. And Biotherm could have the longest 700 miles ahead of them. It looks pretty nasty. And our 11th hour got 500 miles to go, and they're trying to push out to stay into that wind. So, yeah, she's interesting.
What a match race, though. Wholesome and Militia for several hundred miles, literally bow and bow.
Yeah,
well, the
whole way up the coast.
The narrative was that Militia was going to obviously outperform them in the heavier area, especially around the Horn, and then the Wholesome was going to pounce. At this stage, it's sort of held off, and I believe that our prediction of Militia winning this leg is still holding true.
So what's that? Have us at 34 days?
Yeah,
basically.
That's massive. To think all the things that's happened in the last 34 days, they've been sitting in one of those boats.
That's pretty cool, though.
Remember how far in front the Wholesome PRB team were where they jumped that
500 and something miles.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's and they won through the first gate, so they'll pick up some points for that. But geez, she's an intense race. It's been. I mean, I know we've all been watching closely, so she's amazing. Good viewing, huh?
Yep. Looking forward to some stories off the boat when they all arrive. And I'd hate to be a shore crew right now because I reckon there's quite a bit of proactive maintenance needed to be taken on.
Proactive maintenance.
You might want to rephrase that slightly. The shore crew are right now sitting in Brazil with nothing to do. So you wouldn't hate to be a shore crew right now. Like there's things
right
to do.
now.
Yeah.
There's lots of things to do in Brazil.
Yes,
there's lots of things to do in Brazil.
You'd be waking up after about 8,000 caipirinhas. Like, damn it.
Did I do that again? And who are you?
Oh, dear. All
right. Something a bit closer to home then. We had the Pittwater to Coffs race.
The drift off.
It was drift off for some. Then a record has fallen.
Yes.
for Rex, the ex-Orma 60 trimaran,
Mhm.
got the record by 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Do you
5
think
seconds.
Do you think they're out there counting it down? Come on, we can do it. Come on.
Well, word has it they were too scared to radio in their times because they didn't know whether they had it or not, or whether they stuffed the times up or not. But got it by 5 seconds. Comanche a couple of hours later, which didn't get the record, a couple of hours behind that. Skippered in the absence of by Ian Murray in this instance, this particular race. In the absence of Herman. And then you look at the IRC results, and the double-handers have done it again.
Double-handers?
Going to ruin double-handed sailing for the rest of everyone else.
By winning, by trying their best.
By going out there with
no, they've had an absolute blinder, the double-handers.
Yeah.
Rupert Henry took it out, followed closely by the Disco Trooper.
Yeah.
And then, I think the back markers are just dribbling in now. But, by the time this goes to air, everyone would have been finished. Quite a quick and easy race by the sounds of things.
Yeah, just looking out the window here. I mean, admittedly, I'm in Sydney, but it is bucketing down with not a breath of wind.
All right. Well, they won't be getting home quick. Head north, my friend. Head north.
Yeah, it's paradise where I am.
And
boat behind you.
Anyway, so what else have we got going on? The Rolex China Sea race.
Oh yeah, that's Wednesday start. Start.
So that is something we'll be watching. By all accounts, one of the better races one can do. Downwind.
Away, yeah.
Yeah, it's not normally like this, but we'll see what happens.
I've seen like this before.
Exactly. And the other one, gents, is I didn't mention it last week after I saw Grant Warrington at Sid's memorial.
Yeah, he's the big fella.
Oh, no, he's on fire. And as you'd believe, showing me photos of the boat, the Stefan Racing, of which is now currently upside down, getting a full hull extension.
He loves extending boats. So need to.
Oh, yeah, just turning it into something.
Turning it into something.
Not entirely sure it's going to pass the Dorky rule though, because they're using the same rig.
Oh no!
At this point in time.
Oh no!
So
there's going to be a bit of thumbs checking going.
Yeah,
on
the
here.
question. I don't know what we call that. That's not bar karate, but
the
shitter rule.
The shitter rule. So
as our good mate Spike Dorian always used to go, no, that won't pass the shitter rule.
That's the shitter rule.
So for the listeners, it's the old Boatin 80 that used to be, I think, Carl Kwok's boat, the former Beaugest, and then it was Carbon in the US. Getting added 20 foot added to put it, and the rig's going to stay the same. That'll be quite a look, won't it?
It will be quite the look. One, who knows? You're dragging a lot of. I mean, this could revolutionise the sport. You're dragging a lot of rag out the sky once you get moving, right? These days.
Yeah.
So who knows?
So going for the waterline length and drop the sail area for handicap.
The rumor I've heard,
not down that path again, please.
Given it's the same rig, they're leaving the mast base, shroud point, and the tack point in exactly the same spot, and then just putting 20 foot in front. It's like when they made the almost 60s into the 70s. They just added 10
going
foot.
Massive J, big huge jibs.
No, well, they're not moving the tack point. They're just going to have a massive bow.
So basically, it is a glorified bowsprit.
Yeah.
Well, why don't they just put a bowsprit there?
The bowsprit that's that floats. Bowsprit that floats.
Yeah. No, I have no idea.
A volume creating bowsprit.
So it'd be interesting to see what goes on there, gents.
All right, we'll keep up to date with that one then.
Obviously, I do want to mention, we had a bit of fun with a little April Fool's joke on Saturday here in Oz. Did you guys see it? BP,
no, I didn't. Sorry, did I?
Yeah,
you shared it, BP.
You shared it.
Oh, did I?
Shared it on the X2 page. Did you not see the joke?
No, well, I've
What
got a bit
joke?
of an issue going on with
What
Facebook
joke?
at the moment, and everything seems to be going to Facebook.
Okay.
Everything.
So obviously it was a photo of the New Zealand Sail GP team, and we superimposed
sorry.
Visit Australia onto the wing as their new sponsor.
Yes.
Which is good. But the reason I brought it up as a discussion point was the US Sailing had their own little version pop up on Saturday. Did you I shared you the photo. Did you have a look? Their new formal gear that they're going to require everyone to wear. Did you see that?
If you wanted to know your numeral pennants, and your flags, I actually thought the US Sailing one was everyone had to get a moustache.
Well, that's right.
That was last year's joke. This
is definitely more progressive.
Yeah, is all the flags like you would. I actually think people wear this in the New York Yacht Club now. So
with red pants, I think.
Yeah, with the crimson pant.
Crimson, sorry, not
Yeah, but this
with
was the full outfit.
the crimson pants.
Mm.
But I'd like to see this with slightly sort of faded crimson pants. You know what I mean? Just not that brand new look.
So you really thought about this, BP.
No,
And I would actually like to arrange the pennants on it, saying something quite
elaborate.
amusing.
Anyway, US Sailing published it's a full outfit. Very
Well,
cool.
it's kind of like a different sort of aspect of people staring at their mobile phones the whole time, isn't it? So when you go out with this thing, on everyone will just be staring at you, trying to work out what it
Yeah,
says.
read it.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Get rid of technology, just have this on.
I
Yeah,
mean,
hours of amusement.
I think it's bloody funny, and I did. There was one of the early responses from Ned Fairley was, as an Aussie living in New Zealand, that made me laugh so hard I started to cry. Now I just love that. You know, like I feel like I've done a community service.
You have,
mate. Hold your head up high. I think there's
I wouldn't be surprised if you don't get an MBE after this.
I was going to say,
as a matter of
there's
fact,
definitely an OAM on the way for that one.
Beauty.
Sir Jordan speaking.
Sir Jordan spent JSAM.
JSAM. Auckland to Tauranga on at the moment, in case you're interested in that one. I'm actually on the tracker at the moment, and it looks like I'm going down to the 7-Eleven at Horsham Downs. I don't know where.
Someone's got the yellow brick in the back of the car.
Yeah, we're in Hamilton at the moment, so just in the suburb of New Zealand, just south of Auckland.
So they've won then?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to follow.
What speed are they doing? 120 kilometres an hour?
Yeah. Look, I've moved down to Tamahere. Okay, all right. I did that with a New Zealand accent, see if that works. But yeah, good work. Anyway, that was good. So that one's Auckland Tauronga's on, and this week is Trofeo de Princess Sofia.
I love that regatta.
Yeah, it's on all the Olympic classes. It's a big one. So it's the 52nd running of that one. So it's getting close to the Olympics. It's a good form finder. It's one of the World Series events, so everyone's heading over for it. Definitely worth tuning in. It's basically starting as of today, so all good. Obviously, there are other classes apart from the Olympic classes, but definitely one to be following.
Hey, not on the run sheet. Not on the run sheet. I'm really enjoying the AC40 footage. You guys catching up with this? With the teams are putting out all this really nice footage.
My favourite boat in the world, I reckon.
Aren't they looking
I'm going to
spectacular?
talk it up so much, BP, they're going to have to give me a ride. That's my philosophy, right?
To make him go away.
Yeah, you'll be strapped to the windward fall, mate.
Well,
you're on the leeward fall then, bud.
you know how they've all got their helmets on and they're trying to keep out of the wind. What are we going to do for you?
Oh, BP,
That's right.
Don't point out the problems.
Solutions, BP. Solutions.
We just have to put a deeper seat in there.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
No, only jokes.
No,
I'd love to see. I think if anyone on this planet deserves a ride, I want you to. You just love it.
We all do, mate. We all do. I think we should probably mention, given our guests tonight, from the race sense perspective, they're definitely going to come down to Oz and try and find a class to do their race sense program with. And, they've been asking us a lot of questions about that. So if you think you're an appropriate class, then probably reach out to us. So the whole Race Sense program, bit of speed, bit of everyone willing to put a Vakaros on the boat, and the race committee up to doing it. But the whole thing will be, boom, just run. We'll be interested to see when they do that.
Follow that one closely, team.
The other thing I guess I have to mention before we sign off, boys, is this Friday, which is Easter Friday.
God, already.
10 a.m. Aussie time, East Coast Australia time. There will be a live stream of the start of the 75th
KO.
Brisbane
Yes,
Gladstone.
on KO.
On KO, nonetheless.
On KO. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on the Facebook page. So Brisbane to Gladstone Yacht Race. There will be some great commentating from Nick Douglas.
From Grant and Nick Douglas.
Grant and Nick Douglas, that's right.
Special comments, Jordan Spencer.
So I'll be part of the commentary team making it fun. It's going to be a proper coverage too. We've got like multiple helicopters.
Microphones.
Microphones. Cameras on the boats.
Cameras.
Yeah. We've got, we've got a full TV show. It's a full production run. So, it's how Baccarati, well, sort of nearly part of the Baccarati pathway, and it's the same philosophy. So hopefully it'll be a lot of fun.
Tune in.
It could be light. I'll check quickly. It could be light. It could be scarily light, but
why don't you give us a week out weather review?
Well, I'm just I actually haven't been paying attention because I'll just go to a quick look at one of the weather models and then quickly jump in Friday 10 a.m. and see what it's saying. Yeah, it could be light.
Yeah, cool.
Jordan's official weather briefing.
Yeah.
Whoop, we're buggered.
Anyway, all good. That's basically it, boys. Anything else?
Nice, boys. Shut it down. Everyone have a good week. And
thanks for listening.
We'll be hearing all about the 75th Brisbane Gladstone next week, Jordan.
I'll be there.
Can't wait.
Cheers.
Great to speak, boys.
Yep.
Nothing in front but a picture black at night. All my stars are out.